Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Frères Heureux, a Frasier podcast. You are joined, as always, by me, Fraser.
And me, Ewan.
That was good. That was a solid intro. Peak intro so far.
After weeks of me not going along with your intros.
Yep, and weeks of me forgetting words midway through the sentence.
We've nailed it. It's only taken us 12 episodes.
I know. Already, what, a quarter way into the show?
I suppose even, a little over a quarter.
Wow. Oh, no.
That's not bad.
That puts it in perspective, though.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and we recently hit a milestone as well.
We did.
The first 500 downloads.
500 downloads. We've actually just gone over 600.
That's pretty. That's a lot more than I thought we were going to get.
Yeah.
Especially this early on. So thank you to each and every one of you who have tuned in and listened and put up with us.
Yeah.
I suppose. I hope we continue to bring you some fine entertainment on your Thursday mornings. I don't know if anyone listens to it on Thursday morning.
Usually we get a huge spike in viewership on Thursdays.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's usually our busiest.
People like to tune in on Thursdays.
Yeah.
A little morning jog with us shouting in their ears about Frasier.
I'd rather die than do a morning jog, frankly.
There's a couple of seasons yet, isn't it, when Frasier goes for his jog? There's the episode where I was just trying to tie it back to the show, but I think it's a wee while yet before that.
There's one when he says he's going out for a jog and no one believes him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And then he breaks his leg or something.
Season 6.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
That's fine. Never mind. Right, anyway, we're back with the final disc of Season 3. That is some ways through the show now, to be honest.
Yeah.
It feels like we've come quite far, especially with that big turning point early in Season 3 with Niles and Maris, and then again with Niles and Daphne. I feel like that kind of...
This is it starting to pick up a bit of momentum.
Yeah. And I suppose once Season 3's out of the way, we've got a good few seasons of really just prime TV.
4 and 5 might be the best. We've said before how good 4 is, but I don't think we've really mentioned that 5, I think, has some of the best episodes in the show as well.
I think it does, but honestly, 6 and 7,
yeah,
as on a whole, individual episodes maybe take a little bit of a dip, but I think overall I think they hold their own against series 4 and 5. So looking forward to getting stuck into them.
Yep.
But we've still got Season 3 to finish off, so that's what we'll do.
Yep.
We'll do that now. Sound good?
Yep.
Good. Excellent. Right. Starting with Crane versus Crane. Play on Kramer versus Kramer?
Kramer versus Kramer.
Is that just a movie?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
No, neither have I.
Okay. Well, excellent.
I think it's got Dustin Hoffman in it. Is it Dustin Hoffman?
Maybe?
Somebody.
I don't know. It's about siblings?
Probably.
Husband-wife?
Could be husband-wife. We were born in the 1990s.
This was early 90s.
No, it was earlier than that.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was... See, this is the thing. I could be way wrong. I think it was late 70s.
This would be really helpful if we'd looked it up beforehand.
It would be.
Never mind. Right, anyway, it is a play on Kramer versus Kramer. We know that much. And it is about Niles and Frasier going head-to-head over a court case with Mr. Safford.
Yeah.
Well, representing and testifying against.
Mr. Safford.
Yeah. The
Safford
two,
Senior and Junior.
Yeah, Senior played by Donald O'Connor.
We love Donald O'Connor.
In one of his final roles, I think, before he passed away.
It wasn't that long after this he would have passed away.
I think.
Around 2000, I think it was.
Yeah.
And this would have been 96.
Yeah. Oh, I love Donald O'Connor. We love Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
It's just, and he's wonderful in this as well.
He is very
good.
funny in this.
He's definitely one of the best guest spots, I think. So Safford Senior, played by Donald O'Connor, is going a bit loopy in his old age, and Safford Junior is trying to get him committed, I think, or sort of conservatorship or whatever it is you get.
I think he's trying to prove that he is unstable. I think it's more of a financial thing.
Yeah.
So it's like get all of his inheritance early to stop his father from giving it away.
Yeah.
And and he claims it's for his father's own benefit, but there's this whole question of is he just being greedy? And
it's kind of ambiguous as well. They don't really resolve that side of it.
We never meet the character.
No, you do see
him in the
scene.
background, but he doesn't have any lines.
Yeah.
So
we don't really know. But basically, he's trying to stop his father, from spending all his inheritance money. And Niles is asked to testify on Junior's behalf. I'll use Junior and Senior.
Junior.
They don't really distinguish on the episode, but presume it is. So Safford Jr. hires Niles to testify against Mr. Safford Sr. And after having gone to meet him, Niles is pretty comfortable in his assessment that he is going a bit demented in his old age. He's jumped on a railway train.
Yeah,
and
he
sort of
hopped a freight train.
Goes halfway across the country.
Yeah.
And he sold off a plot of land to a young couple for like
half its value.
And
that
was
what kind of brings in the question of like, is it because you think he's mentally unstable, or is it because you think he's giving away your money and you think it's yours and you're going to inherit it, you know?
Yeah. So we have Niles. He's very excited about appearing on court TV, and then Frasier is asked to come and testify on behalf of Safford Sr. And to his credit, I think Frasier's really good in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of played a bit more as he should be. He's not quite as not eccentric, but he's not quite as he's more down to earth. Yeah. In this episode, I think
he's a lot more reasonable the way he acts. It's not not quite as many quick judgments and emotional outbursts that we've seen from him in other episodes.
Yeah, and he doesn't really. He's not as selfish, I think, in this episode as well. The whole episode doesn't revolve around him, or sort of the court case, specifically the plot within the episode doesn't. He doesn't feel it revolves around him. It's not his place to step in and go against his brother and things like that, which I quite liked. Yeah,
because there are a lot of episodes about their rivalry and this whole, the sibling relationship where they're always picking at each other. When it comes out that Frasier is testifying in favor of Harlow Safford Sr., Niles kind of says, "Oh, you're just doing it because you have to disagree with me because you think I'm wrong, because you think you're smarter than I am," which there may be an element of that, but you do see it. Like, he at the beginning was very quick to say, "I'm not getting involved because Niles is involved in the case, so I'm not doing it," which is reasonable. Yeah. Then he gets convinced by Safford's lawyer to go and see him, and then he sees that he actually thinks he's reasonable. That's when the first time we meet Safford, played by Donald O'Connor. Yeah. He's very charming, and he kind of makes a very kind of honorable claims for what he's doing. He kind of says like, "Oh no, the reason I jumped the freight train, I'm not just being daft. It's just something I've always dreamed of doing, and I'm going to be too old to do it soon. I met the couple that bought the house. They couldn't afford it, but they were so lovely. I wanted to sell it for what they could afford, and
and that's all very reasonable. It is reasonable.
It is entirely reasonable. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
unfortunately,
when we come to the final scene in the courtroom, for Niles' day in court, which he never gets, unfortunately, Frasier is up testifying first on behalf of Safford Sr. And during his opening, couple of minutes, Safford has a few outbursts. Yeah. And proves, I think, to everyone, the jury included, that he is in fact not mentally sound. Yes. He puts on a little train cap, and
he's got the little whistle.
Little train whistle. He starts yelling about the diabetes charity that he wants to donate money to. Yeah, poor guy. He seems like such a sweet old man. Like, he just, maybe he does believe that he's doing everything for a good cause, and he's just...
Maybe he does. Maybe he's just having a laugh.
But it is, I think it is definitively proven that he is losing it a little bit. Yeah. Unfortunately. So that's pretty much case closed.
The end of the episode.
And Niles... Well, Niles does get to... He gets to do
in the end.
His big speech. Frasier offers to be the judge. Yeah. And they act it out. And it's a bit...
Yeah, they sit and
Bit
have
much.
a chat. As there's a few times this happens where they say, "Oh, we're just going to be honest and we're not going to be competitive," and then they start competing in the opposite direction over who made a bigger tit of themselves. And I think they do this a few times later on. But Niles. What was the point I was going to make? No, Niles says something. Sorry, I've completely forgotten. Anyway, this is what happens when we record after we've been working during the day.
I know.
I'm too tired. Niles says something about how he felt justified from the very get-go, and Frasier says, like, "Oh, he seems so charming and so nice. How was I supposed to know? Like, I honestly believed that he was, perfectly sane. Was there something that happened when you were interviewing him, when you met him the first time, that made you believe that he wasn't mentally sound?" And Niles just says, "Yes, partway through our conversation, he took his trousers off and tried to put them on the cat." Why did you not mention that earlier, Niles? Why did you not say something?
Well,
3 days ago.
I think Niles was, I think, justifiably annoyed and angry at Frasier that he had taken on the case. Even though I also think Frasier was justified in doing what he did. Oh, there goes my phone. Disgraceful. I keep forgetting to put it on silent. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think Niles is, justifiably angry and annoyed at Frasier for taking on the case. Mm-hmm. But I think Frasier is equally as justified in his handling of it.
Yeah.
Because he does, as you said, at the start, say, "No, it's my brother's case. I don't want to get involved." And then he does, before saying yes, he does meet Safford, and he does make the judgment by himself that he's okay. And I think that's reasonable. I don't know.
It's the most reasonable that we see the two of them.
Yeah.
When they're in this competitive
way.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the last time we'll see a bit of a absurd rivalry.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's a pretty good episode. I like it. I like Donald. I keep wanting to say Donald Glover or Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
And
neither of those.
He's neither.
No. Donald O'Connor.
I think he's wonderful in it. I think he's really funny. He's only in it for a few minutes of the episode. Mm-hmm. It's not a huge part of it. And he's great. And Frasier and Niles going at each other's throats it's always funny.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
You gave it a 4?
I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 3. I almost gave it a 4. But I settled on a 3 in the end. Because it's not, I think it is lacking some of the like really properly good writing and humor. I think overall it's a good episode, and I like the premise.
Yeah.
I just think there's not really as many good like individual jokes peppered throughout it as there are in other episodes.
I'd agree. Yeah, and I did start with a 3 as well. But then when I was thinking about it, I think some of the scenes are really pretty funny. Mm-hmm. The start with Daphne and Martin, when there's Eddie's trying to steal Martin's snacks.
Oh yeah, no, that is good.
And Daphne says like, Martin says, "How can I stop him doing this?" And Daphne says, "Oh well, when he ever tries to do it to me, I just make a really high pitched noise." And she like screams. She does this like yodel, and the dog runs away. And then when they're talking about the sort of when Niles and Frasier are talking about like, the sanity of the older generation, and Martin in particular, he then does the same and does this like yodel screeching, to get rid of Eddie, and it's wonderful. And the stuff with, when Martin's trying to watch the TV and Frasier and Niles are arguing over the top of it is very good as well. So I think it's got some pretty good scenes, and of course Donald O'Connor. So that kind of bumped it up for me. Yeah, I thought it was very, very good.
Fair enough.
Very good.
We did actually have a guest caller as well.
We did.
There is one. I think it's fairly early on. It will be. So it's when Frasier meets Mr. Giroux, Harlow Safford's lawyer, who comes in to try and convince him to join the case. Frasier's just finished recording his show, or I guess presenting. It was whatever. Anyway, there's a woman that calls in who's concerned that her husband is having an affair. Beth, who's played by, I think she's credited as Mrs. Fields.
Yeah.
Her name's actually Debbie Fields.
Did we speak about this?
I think we talked about
on
this
the podcast or off?
I think
podcast?
we talked about it off podcast because we were just looking at upcoming guest stars.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's Mrs. Fields?
Yeah, it's like...
So it's an American brand, this cookie company.
cookie.
Yeah, Mrs. Fields cookies and brownies and I think like pretzels as well, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, we don't get them here. So I had no idea who Mrs. Fields was. I was like...
I thought it was just a brand. I didn't realise there was an actual person behind it.
Yeah.
Absurd.
Yeah.
But wonderful.
Maybe Uncle Ben is going to come in as a...
Uncle Ben and Mrs. Fields.
Mrs. Fields.
The guest spot for the...
Yeah.
upcoming episode. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a good episode. It's a good start to the final disc. Definitely not the best episode on the disc, though. I don't know if you agree or not, but not for me.
I do agree. I definitely gave one a 4.
Only a 4.
I gave one a 4. I don't have any 5s on this disc.
Oh, you were far more harsh than me.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Next episode is Police Story. A Police Story?
Just Police Story.
Just Police Story. Frasier is sort of enamored and taken by a police officer who pulls him over when he's speeding Roz off to a date.
Mm-hmm.
And he did little bit creepily kind of stalked her with the help of Martin.
Yeah.
Martin gets her name and sort of details from the precinct. But it's obviously still he's got old mates at the police office, the office for the police.
Yeah.
Station.
Yeah,
Police station.
The police office.
The police office. What do you call it?
The pig hole.
Oh no. So Martin calls his old buddies up and gets a hold of the woman named Maureen. She usually hangs out at McGinty's, which is also a cop hangout for Martin. Starting in this episode? Is this the first time it's mentioned?
It might be. It might be the first time it's mentioned because they talked about Dukes, which that was early on, which was also, I think they say that it was
a cop bar.
It was a cop bar as well. Yeah. They talk about in the Matchmaker.
Yeah,
Martin talks about Dukes and he says a lot of old cops.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose this is probably. I always did find it kind of funny that it's like they have an episode about tearing down Dukes, and then later on they kind of go, "Oh, we need to have a cop bar.
Yeah,
we'll just write a new cop bar and just kind of."
I mean, there's probably a few
to
be fair, but this is sort of Martin's haunt for the remainder of the show.
Yeah.
McGinty's, he mentions it frequently. So, Frasier and Martin. Frasier, obviously, because he would stick out like a sore thumb, go down to McGinty's to try and find Maureen and ask her out, and it doesn't quite go to plan.
No.
She is, in fact, taken by Martin instead. And I think he's taken by her a little bit as well.
Yeah.
It's certainly implied that he finds her very attractive and interesting. But unfortunately for Frasier, he's kind of out of the picture at that point. So... yeah, and this episode kicks off I wanted to say like a recurring arc, but it's not really because it's only 2 episodes.
Oh, between Martin and Maureen. Yeah,
they're just spaced a season apart.
Yeah.
So they do date Martin and Maureen
for a while, presumably for about a year.
For about a year or so. Maureen played by Jane Kaczmarek, by the way. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
Who is probably best known for Malcolm in the Middle,
playing
Lois. But she's wonderful. She's done a lot of guest spots.
She's a good
including
actress.
Frasier, and she is absolutely deserving of more than just a typecast there. I think she's really wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she is technically a recurring character because she does show up again, and I think she's mentioned maybe once or twice.
She might be.
But I'm annoyed that we don't get more of her.
Yeah.
I would love to see some more episodes with Maureen, but well. I've kind of gone off on a little bit of a tangent. what happens in the rest of the episode?
To be honest, not really an awful
Not
lot.
a lot. Martin kind of weighs up whether he wants to get into a relationship, and kind of go against Frasier.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to upset him, and he also isn't really sure. He feels a bit self-conscious that he's older than Maureen by, I don't know, 10, 20 years, it's implied.
Yeah, presumably an amount.
Yeah, an amount.
An amount.
Any amount is an amount.
Any amount. It could
0
be
years is an amount.
somewhere between 0 and 5 billion years.
You're not wrong.
I would guess she's probably supposed to be ages with Frasier.
Yeah, probably about 40.
So about 20 years.
Yeah.
Which isn't that bad.
No.
At that age. I mean, obviously, at our age, 20 years would be a much bigger difference.
Well, yeah, because that would be dating a toddler.
Yeah.
That's
but like between a 40-year-old and a 60-year-old.
Yeah.
Isn't.
It's not uncommon as well.
No.
Not only is it kind of more accepted, but it's also pretty common, I would say. Probably more common for the man to be older.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Martin seems to be. He seems to be pretty overly cautious, maybe, about it.
Possibly.
And I think he speaks with Niles, and Niles says something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, well, if she likes you and you like her, why not? Kind of thing. Which is a really nice scene, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing Martin and Niles catching up.
It is a nice little scene between the two of them.
And Niles does actually call attention to the fact that he's always going to Frasier.
He always goes to Frasier for advice.
So it's nice to see them together, yeah. And at the end of the day, Frasier does try and chase Maureen again, but finds Martin and Maureen out on their first date, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to get to know each other, and Frasier sort of reluctantly steps aside.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, I feel kind of sorry for him, but he's also very quick to chase a woman who showed no interest in him.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of set up. Excuse me. It's kind of set up that Martin is horning in on this like budding relationship.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there. They meet when Frasier gets a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
And then they say all of 4 or 5 words to each other.
Yeah.
When Frasier stalks her and goes to McGinty's.
Yeah.
There's nothing there that Martin's really horning in on. Like, Frasier has made it clear that he is attracted to her, but it's not like they've not flirted or anything. Or, I mean,
well, he perceives it as...
interprets some of the stuff she says while she's giving him a speeding ticket.
Doing her job.
Yeah, as flirting.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Be very cautious to think someone is flirting with you when you're if they're working and you are not working.
They're being nice.
They're probably
friends.
just being
they're
nice.
just being polite.
But
but no, I think Martin, and of course because they're he's ex-cop, she is a cop. It's a better relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They've got more in common.
Definitely.
Frasier's sort of out, not out of his depth per se, but also kind of.
Yeah, they clearly don't have anything in common.
Yeah, it's a different environment
Mm-hmm.
when they're in McGinty's and stuff with all the cops, and Frasier's just not. He's not suited for it. So yeah, we like Maureen and Martin, solid relationship.
Yeah,
love it. What about the episode on the whole? It's a pretty straightforward episode. There's not a huge amount actually happens.
No, I'm not that big on it. I think the highlight for me is the conversation between Niles and Martin, and the way that they talk to each other about their I guess in a little way about their relationship and about whether or not Martin should be pursuing Maureen.
Yeah.
And I like that little scene. I think it works pretty well.
It's nice, yeah.
But yeah, overall I'm not that keen on the episode. I give it a 2.
Oh, okay.
I definitely think it has some funny bits, but yeah, I'm really not all that big on it.
I gave it a 4.
You give it a 4?
I gave it a 4.
Wow.
Out of 5.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. I quite like this episode, I have to say. Even though there's not a whole lot to it, I like the guest star. I'm trying not to say her name too much in case I've got it wrong. But yeah, Jane Kaczmarek.
Yeah, Kaczmarek.
Kaczmarek.
I would probably not pronounce the C, but that might be wrong.
Possibly Kaczmarek. I think she's really good as Maureen, and
She is.
I'm bitter that we don't get more
It fits
of her.
the character. She played cops in other things. I can't remember what it was. Something else. I want to say Hill Street Blues.
Maybe.
Around the same time, she had a recurring role
Right.
as a cop. So I think she does kind of fit into that role.
It's quite sort of serious, but with sort of comedic undertones. I think she does that really, really well.
I think one of her like most recent roles was as a cop in something. It was like a police commissioner or something. I saw on IMDb.
I would
not
be
in something I
surprised.
have seen, but something I
Yeah.
saw. I think it does kind of fit her that character.
Yeah.
Her acting style, So it.
And she plays off the cast well. She plays
Mhm.
off Frasier and Martin well.
Yeah.
Kelsey and John. I think she does a really good job. And I really wish we could get more of her. But other than her, I think the opening scene's great.
Mm-hmm.
Frasier and Roz rushing through traffic. Roz getting changed in the back seat.
Yeah.
Getting ready for her date. I think that's really funny. And it's a bit of a change of pace as well. It's not often that we start the episode with like an action sequence.
No, that's true. That is true.
Which I really like. The Martin and Niles dialogue is nice. We had similar scene in Moondance
Yeah.
when Martin is the one giving advice. So I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Flipped on its head a little bit.
Sitting in Cafe Nervosa, just having a chat with each other, which
Some-
you rarely see them doing.
It's some of the best scenes, just the cast chatting in
Mhm.
Nervosa. And it's just a nice episode. I like it. And I like seeing Martin happy and starting off a new relationship. So yeah, that's how I justified my 4.
Yeah, quite right. There are some weird little bits of trivia that I found on the internet
Okay.
about this episode.
Okay.
So, first of all, there's a scene when Martin and Maureen go out on their date.
Yep.
And Frasier's kind of hanging around the office.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's hanging around the apartment. Sorry, he's going to the office to do a shift later in the day. He's on the night shift for whatever reason. And Daphne comes in with a couple of her friends, and they're kind of, I was going to say they're like making themselves at home. It is Daphne's home. So they kind of play it off that it's unreasonable that she would have a couple of friends around and they'd be watching TV in the evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she has a couple of her friends around and they're doing there. One of her friends is played by Jilly Mack, who is married to Tom Selleck.
Really?
Yes. She's an actress. She's not done an awful lot of acting.
about
I think
that?
she's not really done anything recently. She did a few things around that time. She had a role on Magnum PI
Oh.
across. I don't know if that's how they met or if that's, I don't know when Magnum PI was, sometime in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would have been, I think it would have been before they were married,
Right.
but they might have already met. Anyway, whatever. They were in that together. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That's interesting. I do like Daphne's friends, actually. I've got to mention.
It's a shame we don't
think
see
they're
them
cute.
more.
I'd
They
like to
could be
see
funny.
more of the girl gang.
There is, when the first time they go to McGinty's,
Mm-hmm.
actually it's one of the it could be the second time they go to McGinty's. At some point, there's a scene in McGinty's,
Yeah.
and behind the main cast going on in the foreground,
Mhm.
in the background, there's a table with 3 people sitting at it, 3
Mhm.
older people sitting at it, that are Jane Leave's mother, Perry Gilpin's mother, and David Hyde Pierce's father, who all showed up to watch. They were in the audience for the filming of the episode,
Uh-huh.
and they were kind of convinced to like, oh, we need some extras here. Do you want to come and sit at, like, the 3 of you sit at the table and have a drink together?
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
quite
think
funny.
it's funny.
I would
Yeah,
need
it's
to go
good.
back and watch it and try and actually like pinpoint what table
don't
it
know
is.
which one,
But yeah,
yeah.
you can see them in the background.
Yeah.
Also, it's not really a bit of trivia, but I think it's quite funny. In the credit scene, so Frasier makes a joke about Martin not coming back too late. He kind of says something like, oh, if you put a dent in the car, it's coming out of your allowance, as Martin's going out.
Yeah.
And then the scene that plays over the credits, Frasier's asleep on the couch with a book, and Martin comes in and wakes Frasier up, and he scolds him.
Yeah,
for
check the
showing
time
up
and it's
late
like whatever
at
time
night.
in the morning, yeah.
But the book, you can see if you zoom in on the title, the book he's reading is called The Female Orgasm. He's fallen asleep with it on his chest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poor Frasier.
It's eluded him once more.
Yep. I never noticed that before, actually. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Police story. And then that's the last of Maureen we see for, don't know, a dozen episodes or so.
Disc 3 of season 4, so...
No, it's not that late.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no, is it disc 2? Maybe disc 2. It is disc 2. Sorry.
Even maybe.
I'm talking
disc
rubbish.
2,
It's disc 2.
So, yeah, fair few episodes to go, but we do get to see her again, thankfully.
There you are.
In the meantime, we've got Where There's Smoke, There's Fire.
Mm-hmm.
I love this episode.
This is a great episode.
This is one of my favourite episodes.
Yeah.
It's probably... hesitant to say it's my favourite episode of season 3, but it might be.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new station owner at KCL, Wilfred S. Boone, better known as Big Willy.
Big Willy Boone.
Which, okay. And he has gotten himself involved with a lovely young lady by the name of Bibi Glazer, who you might remember as Frasier's agent.
Yep.
And they're due to be married, which is great. Good for Bibi.
Very exciting.
Marrying old money.
Yeah.
Which is, the source of many jokes.
Yeah.
That they all know what she's doing. She doesn't care about him.
Definitely
she's
that.
just waiting for him to die and leave him the inheritance. He doesn't seem like a particularly awful person, but
no,
he's
seems
just
alright.
Yeah. Implied to be into some weird sex stuff, though.
He is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Not really implied.
Well, yeah, they outright say it, don't they? But there's a problem, and that is that Bibi is a smoker. And Wilfred S. Boone, despite his Yosemite Sam Texan look, is not a smoker and apparently hates it. Which always surprised me, because he looks like the type who either wouldn't care or would like smoke big stogies or something.
He looks like the type to enjoy a cigar.
Yeah. So I feel, anyway, he doesn't enjoy it, doesn't like it, and refuses to marry her if she still continues to smoke. So Frasier's gets brought in to therapize her.
Yep.
And that results in a weekend of insanity.
Yeah.
At the Crane residence.
Yeah. It's not quite a bottle episode, because
Not quite.
Well, the episode opens in Frasier's apartment. There's one scene in KACL, and then it goes back to Frasier's apartment for the whole rest of the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's mostly centered like over the course of this one weekend, or I suppose over the course of a couple of days. Maybe just 1 or 2 days.
It might not be a weekend, to be fair. It's just over a few days, Big Willy is flying away to somewhere and says, I want her cured when I get back. And he clearly doesn't... He is quite forceful with Frasier. And does say, like, no, you help her. But 3 days to stop a smoker, that's tough.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love this episode. I think it's
very
so funny. Bibi is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Harriet Harris.
Yeah.
Friend of the podcast, Harriet Harris. Is she's always wonderful. Like I've said before, she's one of my favorite characters. She's in like one episode a season, and it's always a highlight. It's always such a great episode because she just brings it out. But I think this is probably the best episode for her, like showing off her acting talent.
I'd agree. Yeah.
She really goes for it, and like there's a little monologue about how much she loves smoking, and why she loves it so much, and it's just it's not like hammy overacting. It's just so emphatic.
She personifies Bibi in that moment.
Yeah, it's really just works so well.
Yeah.
And the whole she puts on an accent when she's talking to Big Willy. She puts on
it's really like subtle,
like
Texan
accent,
southern accent. Yeah,
which may well be her real accent. She is from Texas.
Is she?
Harriet Harris is from Texas. Bibi isn't. We don't know where she's from.
Well,
could be from Seattle. Yeah. She's not from explicitly from Texas in the show.
No.
But yeah, she's just so good. And Richard Hamilton plays Big Willy.
Big Willy. Do we know Richard Hamilton?
He is in the opening scene of Men in Black. He's Tommy Lee Jones's partner, and then he gets his memory wiped, and then that's when Will Smith comes in as his new partner. So he's in that.
Okay.
That's, I think, the only other thing I've seen him in, but he has done various other things. And I think he's just kind of a good little... He has such an iconic look that just really fits Big Willy.
Very sort of Sam Elliott.
Yeah, he is. Actually, he is kind of like a compact Sam Elliott, which I really like.
Yeah, he's great in the few single scene he's in. Actually,
he's only in the one scene.
But yeah, so I didn't even finish. But the weekend goes on, the days go on, whatever. I don't know what particular day of the week it is, and BB just gets more and more desperate. She sort of. She does her big speech at the table, which I hate, by the way, because it always makes me want a cigarette. It really does. The whole joke is that they're eating dinner, and she won't stop eating because she needs a cigarette after dinner, and if she doesn't stop eating, she doesn't need to smoke.
Yeah, fair
enough. But both Martin and Daphne Daphne's sort of implied to be a current smoker, but not addicted kind of thing. What would you say, like sort of
once every couple of months? It's not the first time that we've seen her smoke. She has a cigarette.
She does actually. That's true. Matchmaker, yeah. And we know Frasier smokes occasionally as well because he smokes with Daphne, and Martin's an ex-smoker as well. So she does this big speech, and as soon as she finishes the speech, everyone sort of starts eating again.
Everyone's scrabbling for more food.
And that leads to Daphne going and trying to sneak a cigarette out on the balcony.
Yeah.
While BB's sleeping on the couch, and she does this amazing like Nosferatu. She like in one smooth motion, she like pulls the blanket off herself and sits upright.
Yeah,
I love it. I love that scene. There's something so wonderful about it. It's amazing. And they get into a bit of a tussle, and then Frasier gets woken up, and they get into a tussle, and Martin's drunk and having a cigarette in the kitchen, in the bathroom. And it's such a huge farce, and it's brilliant. It's so funny to watch. But Frasier does finally convince BB to stop smoking.
Yeah.
And the way he does that is by saying, if she doesn't, then Big Willy's just going to marry some other young woman, and all his money will go to her instead. But luckily, they do go ahead with the wedding. However, unluckily, Big Willy is not fit for it.
Yeah, has a heart attack as he's going down the aisle.
Poor Big Willy.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know how true this is. I would love to see it. Apparently, they actually wrote a scene for the script. Like, they were going to show that. That was how the episode was going to close. Was like at the wedding. Oh no! Going down the aisle. Like, we hear about it afterwards. Martin comes into the apartment like after the wedding, in inverted commas. They're kicking about, Frasier and Roz and BB.
BB's out on the balcony with a cigarette in her mouth,
with a cigarette under the veil. And they kind of tell Martin what happened, and that's how it just plays out as a joke. We don't actually see it, but apparently it was written that was going to be how the episode ends, is we see Big Willy and BB going down the aisle, and he has a heart attack, and BB trying to, and then
pretty dark.
They cut it because they were like, we can't show this. It's a step too far. They don't usually go for like that dark humor. I suppose it's more common in something now. They wouldn't really have done it in the 90s.
However, there is an episode in a couple seasons' time where someone does die on screen.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh, yes. No, I'm thinking.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't spoil anything then. But yeah, I mean, that's probably of a similar vein in that kind of humor, you know? That's probably what they were going for. But okay. Yeah, no, that is pretty. I didn't know that, but that's pretty.
And they do the like Weekend at Big Willy's.
Weekend at Big Willy's. Yeah.
I just realized in my notes I got that confused with another film, and I wrote Breakfast at Big Willy's. I confused Weekend at Bernie's with Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I say, what about Breakfast at Big Willy's?
Anyway.
I'd love to watch that film. That sounds amazing. Right, what did you give it? How many cups of coffee?
I did just say a minute ago that I didn't give any 5s, and I was going to give this a 4, but you know what? It deserves a 5.
It does.
It does deserve a 5.
I quite agree it deserves a 5.
I can't not give it a 5. Yeah.
It is good.
Yeah.
It is good. And yeah, Harriet Harris just nails BB in this episode.
Yeah. I think all of the acting is great, to be honest.
It is good. Yeah,
Like,
no, it is.
Frasier in therapy mode is quite funny.
Yeah.
You've got Niles has this like resentment. There's a scene when he's talking with BB about how she's marrying into money, and he has this resentment about the fact that that's what he did and it didn't work out because they got divorced, which is very funny. Daphne craving a cigarette.
Yeah.
Martin having a cigarette in the middle of the night and getting drunk.
Yeah.
Is really funny as well. And I think just a lot of the kind of humor of it, like the setup and the little jokes about what's going on with the whole situation. They're all great. I think it is a solid episode.
It is. It is pretty good. And unfortunately, I think the remainder of the disc doesn't live up to it.
No.
I think this is probably the best episode on the disc. And it's probably my highlight in a way in terms of episodes.
Yeah, it's in my opinion the best one.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we will crack on regardless. Next up, we have Frasier Loves Roz. Of course he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he does. They're best friends.
They are.
I don't know if they're best friends.
No, they're pals.
They're friends. They're friends at least. But Roz is having a bit of a time of it. She's struggling in her love life and just sick of dating the same old, what would you call them? Working Joes who just love her and leave her.
Yeah.
And Frasier gives her a bit of advice that sticks with her, and he says, well, why don't you try dating someone a bit more intelligent, not as physically inclined as you are normally going for, and go for the intelligence and someone you connect with, So she does. But unfortunately for Oz, the man is a serial womanizer, as Niles puts it, who happens to be one of Niles' patients. Sexual compulsive?
I think he says compulsive womanizer.
Compulsive womanizer
is the term he uses, so it's not necessarily even about sex. I think it's maybe that the guy just really loves getting women to like him, and then very quickly moves on, which is, of course, the last thing that Roz needs when she's trying to get into a serious relationship.
And when she's been broken up with so many times recently. It's just it doesn't want another scenario like that. And Frasier, of course, looks out for her. But that is mistaken for something a bit more than just friendship. It's all thanks to Daphne. It's all Daphne's fault.
It is Daphne's fault.
They have a little conversation in the kitchen, Roz and Daphne, and Daphne, immediately jumps to the conclusion that Frasier's in love with her and backs it up with the evidence that he was speaking to Niles. And says, he wants to tell Roz, but he can't, referring to Niles' patient.
Yeah.
Obviously, doctor-patient confidentiality, they can't discuss it, blah, blah, blah. So it's all her fault for assuming making an ass of you and me.
Yeah.
Except it's just making an ass of her and Roz.
Yeah.
And Frasier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
They,
What was the point you were making with that?
I don't know. They all made an ass of each other.
They did.
That's what I was going for.
They did all make an ass of each other.
But it was all Daphne's fault. So, oh God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
So the episode wraps up. Frasier and Niles kind of have a little brainstorming session where they decide that Roz is mentally incompetent.
Yeah, they do.
Which is quite funny. And decide that is a valid reason for them to break the doctor-patient confidentiality, and Frasier goes over to warn Roz about what's happening.
Yeah.
And he shows up he's a little bit too late. Yeah. Roz tells Ben, did we say the guy's name?
Ben, yeah.
No, the guy.
Yeah, Ben.
Roz tells him that she loves him, and he panics and walks out, and Roz is heartbroken, and Frasier shows up with her wearing hideous bridesmaid dress, which they had made comment to earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
With her hair all a mess and mascara down her face and not in a good way. So then this kicks off a scene that I really don't enjoy.
No?
To be honest. No, I don't. This is the thing that I really don't like about this episode. I mean, just generally, I hate... It's not the last time that it happens, but this kind of, Frasier and Roz are a straight man and a straight woman, therefore we have to put this romantic subplot in every so often, and it feels like they almost get together, but they don't really, even though neither of them actually wants to. It's just a misunderstanding and they kind of go along with it.
I know what you mean, and I agree with you, but I think in this episode, it's a lot more clear-cut that they aren't moving forward with it.
No, I agree, because I do like that it's like they're pointing it out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know how well they do it. I've never really liked this episode. Maybe it's because when I've watched it in the past, I haven't really thought about it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've never been that. I hate the idea of Frasier and Roz getting together.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. But I think, because the whole thing comes from the farce of Roz thinking that Frasier's in love with her.
Yeah.
And she obviously isn't in love with him. And he isn't in love with her. But it's the sort of farce of knowing versus not knowing and, what is the truth kind of thing. So when he does go over to her flat to comfort her, to tell her about Ben and then to comfort her when he realizes that she's gone, that he's gone, sorry. There is a sort of moment of when she says, "Oh, well, you're in love with me," he's kind of like, okay, am I?
Yeah.
He's brushing her hair.
Yeah.
And he does come clean and does sort of say like, yeah, I don't, I love you as a friend, and that's it. And they have this sort of little moment of like, well, we are both single, we do both love each other, blah blah blah, and then they kind of both say, actually, no,
yeah,
we don't want that. Neither of us wants that. Yeah, let's not do it. And I like that. I like that they're both sort of mature enough that they're kind of like, well, no, we don't really want it. We're just kind of both lonely, I suppose, at the moment. And yeah, it is. They do revisit it a couple of times in the future, but I think this one's probably the least offensive of all of them.
Yeah.
Not offensive. Not probably not the word. It's offensive to me.
Yeah. At the top of my head, the other few times that happen, I don't actually. One of the times later on where there's kind of exploring similar themes, I think it's almost more of a B plot, and the rest of the episode is a lot stronger. But I still really just hate that part of it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so overall, I really don't enjoy this episode. And I think it's just because the idea of Frasier and Roz being together just skeeves me out so much.
It's something... It's something that happens a lot in sitcoms and TV, like you said, that the writers do kind of treat it as... well, we have a single man and a single woman, and let's make them get together at some point, or let's make them sleep together, or let's do a subplot where they get together and then break up. And it's just sort of a trope.
The Joey and Rachel dynamic in Friends.
It's like it's not a Frasier. It's a Frasier podcast. It's not a Friends podcast.
But still,
we've been over this.
That's the.
But no, I do agree. There's no need. There's a significant lack of platonic friendships in TV and movies, and I hate that because I really love to see it. I love when there's no romantic sort of subplot or main plot in things. I like just seeing two well-written characters who love each other but are not romantically involved, and it's not something we get often. Which is a shame.
It is a shame.
I don't like it. In saying that, I don't think this episode's that bad.
No.
I think it's pretty funny. Roz in her bright green dress. Niles and Frasier trying to find their loopholes in the journals. It's got some good moments, and I kind of like the exploration of Frasier and Roz as friends.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't want it to go any further, but I kind of like it that they do address that they are both good friends and they do love each other. For now, anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe soured a little bit later on. So I give it a 3. I give it 3 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
I think it's not bad. I think it's not great. It's not the best episode.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing overly offensive about it, I suppose. Yeah. It's just kind of a nice episode.
Yeah.
I'm sensing by the look on your face that you do not agree.
No, I give it a 1. Yeah. Maybe it is me knowing what's coming that sours it for me. Maybe I would look at this episode more fondly if it was just a one-off, like them talking about the potential of being in a romantic relationship and then deciding, no, it's never going to work, we should just be friends.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with exploring that. I know we were just saying that it's good seeing people having platonic relationships and leaving it there. There's nothing wrong with them saying, like, oh, well, what if we did potentially date and then both deciding, no, we don't want that.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. But I don't want to give too much away about anything that happens.
It's quite a while before we...
It is a long while.
Again, so I won't get too much
so,
into it.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair enough. I do not judge you your one, your singular coffee cup.
Single coffee cup.
But I don't think it's that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not as bad as the next episode.
No. Although, before we move on, quick little shout out for a guest star.
Oh, guest star.
Good.
It's a good guest star.
It is a good guest caller.
Yeah.
It's David Duchovny.
David Duchovny.
He's good in this. I always looked at his, so he calls in and he's talking about how he's worried that his wife or fiance or girlfriend, I can't remember what he says specifically, his partner that he's been with, he's worried that they're only together because they have a really good sex life.
Yeah,
they're very sexually compatible, and he's worried that that's the only reason they're still together and not because they're actually a good couple and they actually really like each other. And I always had this idea in my head that this character was like a real arsehole, that it's like he's calling in and he's so horrible and he's just like really arrogant about the fact that he has a good sex life. Mm-hmm. And then rewatching it, I'm like, no, he's just got a good sex life.
He's just concerned as well.
He's concerned, which is a good thing. I mean, that's a good thing to be concerned about in a relationship. Like, they get along, but are they getting along for the right reasons is probably I mean, as far as relationship problems go, that's probably not that bad of a one to have. And he seems very, amiable about the idea of, Frasier suggests they go and do like a night class together. They go at like the local community college and go and do a class together. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to do that. Have a great weekend, Dr. Crane. And he just seems really nice.
He does.
He seems really chill.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Good for him and his 6 years of good sex.
Getting some.
Try that again. 6 years of good sex. Okay. I should have just left it.
Maybe.
Anyway. Yeah, David Duchovny. We do like a Mulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what movie's really good?
Evolution.
Yeah. That movie rules.
I love Evolution. It's so good.
Anyway.
This is now the David Duchovny show.
the David Duchovny cast. David Duchovny cast.
David. Honestly, I'd be on board.
Yeah.
I'd be on board with making a podcast about David Duchovny. No, let's not. Let's not get to. We had Friends. We've got David Duchovny.
No.
Let's focus on Frasier for now. Next episode 5 or 23. What,
I guess
22,
23
episode.
Yes, 23
of season 3. We're almost at the end. We've got the focus group. Yep. I don't like the focus group.
Nope, neither do I.
Come out and say it. It's probably one of my most skipped episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I'm watching this disc, not just because it's not a great episode, but because of how awful Frasier is in it.
Yes.
It's just, I hate watching it.
It's a trope that we have seen a few times before. and we're gonna say again, and I always talk about how much I hate it anytime it comes up. Frasier is completely unable to let anything go. If someone doesn't, well, in this case, someone doesn't like him, or if something doesn't go his way, or if people aren't doing something the way that he wants them to do it, he'll spend the entire 22.5 minute or however long runtime of the episode being an annoying, whiny little something about it. I'm trying not to swear. It's difficult. That would have been a particularly bad one that was going to come out there. But he's really, he's just the worst. He's so annoying. So yeah, this is like a natural setup for that kind of episode. Frasier's show is undergoing a focus group session. They've gotten some people in off the street and they're listening to the show and they're giving their opinions on it. And everyone loves it except one guy played by Tony Shalhoub. I like Tony Shalhoub.
He's all right.
He's pretty good.
I don't really give him much of a thought, to be honest.
No.
Never watched Monk.
I've not watched Monk either. He's in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Did you watch that?
I did not. No, I did not.
He's good in that. He plays the marvelous Mr. Maisel.
Mr. Maisel.
he plays the main character's dad.
All right. He's in Men in Black as well.
He is in Men in Black.
There you go.
There you go. Him and Big Willy kicking about in Men in Black.
Big Willy and Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah. So overall,
you need to stop kicking.
I do need to stop. I'm sorry. There's a little.
It makes such a ping.
There's a little twiddly bit that keeps
I know.
pinging.
Well, just yeah.
Sorry, I fidget. That's my problem. I'm a fidgeter. Tony Shalhoub. What was I saying about Tony Shalhoub?
Tony Shalhoub plays Manu Habib.
He does play Manu Habib, who is he runs a newspaper stand. And he doesn't like Frasier. He is the one person in the focus group who says he doesn't like him. He's not very... He just says, I just don't like him.
Yeah.
And it's because he says later on, he doesn't like criticizing people. Mm-hmm. He kind of wants to just please people. So he doesn't want to elaborate on why he doesn't like him. Frasier can't let this go. Pesters him when he's at work.
Yeah.
Drags Niles and Martin along
mm-hmm.
to also pester him while he's at work.
Mm-hmm.
He injures him.
He scolds his hand.
First
of all, he drops boiling hot coffee on him.
Oh
no, sorry, no. He pours the hot coffee on him, and then he as Manu is pulling the shutters down, Frasier, like, I don't know, grabs him or whatever, and he shuts his hands in the shutters. Yeah, so Frasier offers to look after the newspaper stand while Manu goes and gets first aid. And while he does that, he knocks over Manu's ashtray, I think.
I suppose it must be.
Kicks it over, and perhaps inevitably, tragedy ensued. Yeah. He sets the place on fire. It's so awful to watch. Only made worse by the next scene when he and Manu are sitting on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And Manu confides in him, saying that it was like the newspaper down was passed down to him by his uncle, that his whole life revolved around it.
Yeah.
That he loved working there. And Frasier's burnt it down, and then he just gets up and walks away.
Yeah. He finally antagonizes the guy enough to get him to honestly say how he feels about Frasier.
Yeah.
He rips into him, basically saying, like, you're so annoying. You're so
full
whiny
of yourself.
Weirdo. You're a complete smarty pants.
Yeah, he calls him a smarty pants.
Calls him a smarty pants. Quite right. And then Frasier just goes, "Oh, was that so hard?" and leaves, and that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, it's awful. I feel so sorry for.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Poor Manu. And this is another episode that's just not much happens.
No, not really.
Pretty much it. Like, we have them going to the focus group, and then the whole stopping at the newspaper stand and trying to speak to Manu. It's objectively speaking, I think it is an alright episode.
Mm.
I think it's not an interesting premise, because it's one that's been done before, like Frasier's obsession with things and not letting things go. But I think it's done well, and I think it's unique enough that it gets away with it.
Yeah.
And Tony Shalhoub is good as well.
Yeah, exploring like public opinion of Frasier's show
Yeah.
is good, because we don't really do that very much.
No. Well,
It happens every so often.
yeah, and it's kind of implied that people don't really like him that much.
Yeah.
But here, it's, what, 11 out of 12 people?
11 out of 12. So
Love him?
Yeah.
So, they kind of explore that a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, objectively, it's not awful. It's just that kind of humour where it focuses on everything going wrong and everything falling apart, and one guest character is at the centre of it. Their whole life is crumbling around them. I hate that. I hate watching it, because I'm like, no, you poor man, you didn't deserve this.
Yeah. We need to make a list of all the guest characters that just suffer in this show.
Frasier abuses.
We just want to put a blanket around them and give them a cup of tea or something, you know?
There's a few. Definitely a few.
Yeah, there isn't an awful lot going on in this episode, like you say. There is a little B plot, kind of, with Niles and Daphne. Niles gets into an argument with Daphne. He's on the phone and she's watching TV, and he makes a crack about people that watch reality TV as being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Daphne takes offense because, you know, she was watching reality TV, and it starts this back and forth where they start shouting at each other, and Niles really enjoys it.
Yeah.
He's like into
gets
Daphne
off on it. It's
shouting at him.
a bit weird, but
so he spends a few times the rest of the episode keeps kind of like poking at her and trying to antagonize her. It's not very good. I'm not really big on that B plot.
It's a bit weird.
It's kind of funny, but it's not great.
And it always reminds me of a scene later on, much later on, into spoiler territory later on. So I won't give too much away.
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It kind of leads the two of them having fundamental differences in their outlook on life, and arguing about it. It's not the last time it comes up.
Yeah.
This is sort of a very tame, and it's played for laughs. Later on, it's played very seriously.
Yeah.
And not funny at all. So yeah, it's sort of the start of that theme as well.
Yeah.
Which does come up. But there you go.
There you go. See, this episode and the last episode, I have a note about it, but I've already forgotten what it was. There's a Martin Niles B plot in Frasier Loves Roz. Can you remember what it is? I can't remember what it is.
In Frasier Loves Roz?
Frasier Loves Roz.
No.
I've completely forgotten what it could be. I've written down that it's there, but I didn't think it was very good, which is why I don't think it really saved the episode.
No.
Nope.
Checking my trusty computer screen.
No. I feel like the two of them, they have kind of other stuff going on. It's just really not interesting or fun, which is a shame, because usually David Hyde Pierce, this isn't a criticism of David Hyde Pierce's performance, but usually his scenes, even when he's just relegated to one bit, kind of outside of the action, are usually still really good. And here they're just not.
In this episode, I don't know about Frasier Loves Roz, I can't remember, because it was so long ago, yesterday that we watched it, but in the focus group, there's the scene where they're in the car. Martin and Niles are well, they're tagging along against their will, trying to get to dinner. And while Frasier is setting Manu's newspaper stand on fire, the two of them are sitting in the car and like making comments and stuff at it. And that's very funny. Martin's just sort of asleep, got his hand over his head, and Niles is making jokes about it, and just very deadpan. And that's quite funny, but that's not really a B plot. It's kind of just like an odd scene in among to break up. Frasier at the newsstand. So yeah, they don't get much to do in this episode, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Ah, well. I presume you're going for quite a
Giving
low
it a 1.
mark.
This is a 1. This is a 1 cupper.
See, I was more generous than you.
Yeah.
I give it a 2. Because I do dislike this episode. But I don't want to be too critical. I'm turning over a new leaf.
Yeah.
Try to be kinder in my judgment of episodes. Starting now, I guess. But I rewatched it and I was like, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not as bad as I remember it. And all of my 1-cuppers so far have been as bad as I remember it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what my gauge is on what makes a 1-cupper.
Fair enough.
So yeah, it I do hate watching Frasier ruin this guy's life, but Tony Shalhoub's very funny. Frasier and Martin and Niles in the car is very funny. The focus group scene's good. We get a little bulldog.
We do get a little bulldog.
Who kind of steals that scene. They're making jokes at the guy who goes up to the two-way mirror. He's like picking his nose or something and then eats it. That's very good. So yeah, I think it's better than a 1. And that means it has to be a 2. So
there you go.
And here we are at the very end of season 3.
End of season 3.
Feels like season 3's flown by.
It has gone pretty quickly.
We've just zoomed right through it. We've got You Can Go Home Again, but you can't. Not yet, because we need to finish this episode.
Yeah, we've got to finish recording.
Finish recording first, then you can go.
Cool,
good. It's a bit of a flashback episode. Majority of it is a flashback. Well, it's a... What's the sort of revisited flashback? How would you call that?
I don't know.
It's not like a clip. It's not like a clip episode.
Yeah,
it's like a...
It's set around Frasier's first show.
Yeah,
Frasier's first episode of his radio show. It's their anniversary. It's the 3-year anniversary.
3 years
of the start of the Frasier Crane show, and as a gift, Roz gives him a tape of the first episode, and he sits and listens to it, and that's what kicks off his remembrances, which is the kind of setting for the rest of the episode.
This is sort of the last season finale that draws attention to the fact that it's a season finale as well. In that capacity, we've had end of season 1 is 1 year in to Frasier living in Seattle. Season 2 is Martin's birthday, and they do kind of address, it's 2 years.
Yeah,
and then this episode is 3 years since his first show.
Yeah, which I like.
From here on, yeah, I like that. I do like that. But from season 4 onwards, it's not quite as... It's not centered in... How to describe it? It's not in universe. It's not an in-universe finale. There's no specific anniversary that it revolves around, really.
Yeah.
It's more existential one.
Yeah, I guess.
Whereas we as the audience are watching the finale rather than it tying up any in-universe plot points.
Yeah.
You know? I probably did not explain that very well.
No,
but you know what I'm trying to say.
Picking up what you're laying down. So.
Yeah, good, because I'm laying down absolute rubbish. Starts off, 3-year anniversary. Roz and Frasier have given each other gifts, and Frasier gets her a nice pair of earrings. The earrings?
I think so.
Necklace. Nice bit of jewellery, and she gives him a tape of his first show, which I think is a really nice gift. I think it's a really thoughtful, sentimental gift. And then the remainder of the episode, well, not quite. Hold on. Just hold on a second. Just hold on, okay? Just hold on.
I'm ready to go.
Daphne is having a bit of a tiff with her mum.
Yeah.
And she can't decide whether to go on holiday back to England and see the family or go away to... Is it Aruba? It says? I can't remember. Acapulco? Somewhere with an A.
Yeah.
And that kind of is left hanging in the background while Frasier sticks on the tape, and the rest of the episode is a flashback until the very end. And he's sitting listening to the tape. It's so weird. I don't know. I don't like what they do with Frasier here. Because when we start the show, as in when we start the show as viewers, we're watching the pilot, and Frasier seems to be pretty competent.
Yeah.
He has his moments, but overall, season 1 and season 2, I think, he seems to be pretty with it. He seems to he's getting to grips with his new life, but he is kind of settled into his job and his apartment and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And even Martin, to an extent, maybe.
Yeah.
But this episode kind of just ignores all of that and puts him in his first show, and he's a bumbling idiot. He's hitting buttons and doesn't know what to say, and he can't keep a collar on the line and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And Roz is fed up with him as well, and it feels very like they've just kind of erased what happened in the pilot, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like they've kind of gone against the grain.
I suppose a little bit. They do make comments about him not being particularly good at his job in the very first episode.
Yes.
And I think we don't really hear more of that. So I think there is...
But
if anything, this just makes the jokes in the first episode seem a little bit more realistic.
I disagree, because the jokes in the first episode are kind of like, okay, he's on there with the collar, and I'm trying to remember what happens. He's on with the collar, and he's very aggressive with him, isn't he? When the very first scene, he's like, yes, you need to do this because blah, 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 and you're wrong, and blah, blah, blah. Thanks for your call. And he puts the phone down, and he takes the next caller, and he knows what he's doing. Yeah. He's in the loop, but he's okay, he makes a couple of mistakes off screen, as Roz says, but in this episode, he's treated as like, he can't even sit down, he can't get his headphones on.
Yeah.
He's mucking about with a microphone. It's like, he's not that kind of idiot, He's maybe a wee bit incompetent getting to grips with the technology and with the radio persona. Yeah. But he's not... I don't know. It's just the way they portray him is really weird. And I can't get to grips with it. I don't like... Oh, I nudged the thing.
You did.
I nudged my microphone stand.
Let it be known that was you that time.
I could have just played it off and said it was you.
You could have done.
Anyway. So yeah, I really don't like that. They introduce us to Niles, and their relationship is kind of non-existent, I suppose. Yeah. And they've not spoken to each other in however long. Mm-hmm. They bump into each other in Nervosa, and that supposedly kicks off their relationship again. Yeah. Neither of them seem that interested in speaking with each other. Yeah. At all. Mm-hmm. Whereas at the start of the show, they seem like old friends.
Yeah. Like they spend pretty much every day. They see each other for coffee pretty much every day.
Exactly.
Which is how their relationship is for the rest of the show. Yeah. They make a comment about they had dinner with the two of them and Maris. Yeah. A few days prior. And then they bump into each other at the coffee shop and kind of are really awkward. And
yeah, it's just... It's just played really strange.
It is weird.
And we get an introduction to Martin as well. That's probably the most realistic of it, of the three, if we do the show and Niles and Martin. That's probably the most realistic. Yeah. They both go round to visit Martin, Niles and Frasier. Niles, who's been making weekly visits, which makes sense because he's the one who encourages Frasier to take him in at the very start. But Niles very quickly leaves and leaves Frasier to sit and chat with Martin, and they're very awkward. They don't really know what to talk about, and they stick the football on in the background and just kind of sit in silence. And I think that's probably the most realistic. That's how I imagine their relationship was before they started. Because Martin is introduced in the first episode as the same kind of character. Mm-hmm. When he first comes to Frasier, they're very distant. They don't know what to talk about. And so that makes sense. But the show and Niles, I just can't get my head around it. It's just not realistic to me. I feel like I've monopolized.
No, I agree with you. I get there's definitely bits of that make sense. I think the relationship with Niles, there's a big divide in how it's portrayed here compared to the The Good Son, the original pilot
Yeah.
of the TV show. So I can see that. I think it is kind of funny seeing that slightly more strained version of their relationship and going back to it like it was right at the start of season 1, but then exaggerating it even further as like this is what it was like even before Frasier and Martin started living together, before Frasier and Niles became closer again.
Yeah.
I think it could lend itself to a few jokes. I think the bit with Frasier and Niles in the coffee shop, with Frasier kind of making cracks about Niles being really pretentious, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense that in the 6 months, if even that, between the events of this
like
episode
weeks.
and
No, but it's like weeks.
potentially not even that long at all.
Because they say when Good Son starts, he says something like it's only been a few weeks.
Yeah.
Does he not? Am I imagining
he probably
that?
does. He probably does.
That's why I can't get my head around it, because it's supposed to be such a short period of time between his first episode and the pilot, and it just feels like I don't know. It feels so different. It feels so disconnected.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
No.
I don't like flashback episodes like this where they try to add something to a plot. I think flashback episodes should be either for something ridiculous, so like a very silly, when they were both teenagers and it's the two of them in like wigs and they're doing something ridiculous, like, that's kind of funny and inoffensive. It doesn't really take anything away from the current plot. Whereas I feel like this kind of tries to rewrite the pilot almost, and that's what I don't like, because The Good Son is such a good pilot.
That's true. Yeah, I can see that may well have been what they were trying to do, is kind of take a second stab at the pilot.
Yeah. So I don't like it.
No, I think of the season finales this far and the ones for the next few seasons, this is probably the weakest. But I think overall, I do still like it as an episode.
Yeah.
There are some jokes about when Frasier's doing his first show. Roz was actually the second producer that Frasier was assigned to.
Yeah.
And the first one dumped him.
Yep.
And then Roz tries to do the same partway through the first episode, tries to get transferred onto another show, and she talks about trying to get a transfer onto a horticulture program, and she says, if I can grow plants in my dorm room closet, then clearly I know something about horticulture, which is really funny, and a little bit of a glimpse into Roz's wild younger years.
Yep.
Which is a bit of a shame that we don't see more of. We do, this was a little bit, but and there's a bit of, I don't even know if you call it a monologue, but a bit with Niles ordering coffee in Cafe Nervosa, and he has this whole rant where he orders a coffee topped with a whisper of cinnamon.
Yeah.
And he gets too much, and he calls it a full-throated shout of cinnamon, and it's one of the best like line deliveries of his
It's
character.
one that you quote a lot.
I do. The full-throated shout of cinnamon is hilarious to me. So it has some good bits. I really like how they round off the characters. You kind of see like Roz and Daphne. We see them meeting each. Well, you see Daphne in the flashback very, very briefly.
Yeah.
They kind of make a joke about she's in the background.
Yeah.
And she says something, and then they don't see each other again. But she's there. Plus, this is the first time that Roz meets Frasier, and the first time that Roz meets Niles, very briefly.
Yeah.
They're now like concretely in Frasier's life.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the relationship with Martin going from them not seeing each other and being very distant, and Martin not listening to Frasier's show, and kind of similar with Niles. The two of them are a bit awkward around each other. They don't really spend time together. Going now to Frasier at the end of the show, back in the present day, goes out for dinner with Martin and Niles. Yeah. Just the three, they just go out for dinner. It doesn't seem to be a special occasion or whatever. Yeah. They just decide to go out for dinner. Martin comments that he listened to the show in the afternoon. And you get this nice little feeling that they are, I think it's the same as what happened in season 2. We start to get this feeling that their relationship is progressing. That's what they wanted from the very beginning, is they wanted to grow closer. And they said, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And every so often they check in and they show how they are getting better acquainted and getting along. And I think it's really nice when we check in and see that.
I'll admit that my favorite part of the episode is the contrast between the supposed flashback, or if you want to treat the pilot as more of a start, and where they are now. And Martin being very sort of very kind in his words on Frasier's show, that he sat and listened to it. Niles, I think the reason they're going out for dinner is for the anniversary, because Niles comes in and says, I hear it's your 3rd anniversary, 3 years of your show, we need to go and celebrate. And he's very happy about that. And Chipper, obviously, the gifts that Roz and Frasier exchange at the start of the episode is nice. And then my favourite bit of the episode is when he gives Daphne an extra week of holiday.
Oh yeah, that's
so
nice.
That she can go home to England, but also away to where did we decide it was? Acapulco. And I really love that. I love that she's gone from like a no one to part of the family, basically. Which is really nice scene and really touching. But I also agree with your sentiment that it's probably the weakest of the finales.
There
possibly
is
out in the whole show.
Another improved relationship that we haven't touched on is we see a flashback to the first time that Frasier meets Eddie.
Yeah.
And then when we cut back to the present day, he's fallen asleep on the recliner, listening to the recording of his first episode, and Eddie's sitting there staring at him. And he just tells him he loves him and gives him a little kiss on the forehead.
Gives him a little smooch. Yeah.
Which we like.
Yeah.
Give the dog a little smooch on the forehead.
Love Eddie. Yeah.
So that's kind of cute.
It is cute. It was unfortunately not enough to save the episode for me.
No.
2 cups out of 5.
2.
I didn't have the heart to give it a 1.
No.
Because I think it does have some nice moments in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some funny bits actually, particularly with Niles in Cafe Nervosa.
Yeah.
And when he's introducing Frasier and Martin again.
Yeah.
I think Niles is very funny there.
He is, yeah.
But overall, I don't like what they try and do with the flashback. I don't like how it doesn't retcon the pilot, but it feels like they're almost trying to, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because to me, The Good Son is one of the best pilots of a TV show.
Yeah.
And it deserves to be the pilot. I don't like them going back a few weeks prior and trying to rewrite stuff. So
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I agree with that on most counts. I went a bit higher and gave it a 3.
3, okay.
Because I still don't necessarily think it's that strong of an episode. But I'm not that harsh on it. It's all right.
It's all right. It's a shame that the previous finales are much better. I think the upcoming finales are much better as well.
They are.
It's a shame that this one, and even for this disc, it's probably, I didn't give any 1 to this disc, but it's probably my lowest rated one.
Yeah. On
this disc, I think.
There you go. It's actually my second highest.
Well,
tied with Crane versus Crane.
Yeah. No. Where there's smoke, there's fired.
Yeah, it was second highest.
Oh, sorry, tied second.
Crane versus Crane.
Sorry,
tied second.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, there you go. Now you can go home again.
Yep, I can. All right, bye-bye.
Bye. And we're back.
I
should just end the episode there.
Funny you should mention, actually, depending on what time it is. There we go, it's still fairly early. When I go home, I'm probably going to watch Julia. This is relevant to Frasier.
Oh, yeah.
This is relevant to Frasier Talk. I don't know if you've watched it or...
I have not watched it. It is on my to-watch list, though.
I recommend it. It's good. So, new series has just come out a few days ago, time of filming, last Thursday, Friday?
I think it was about a week ago, yeah.
First 3 episodes came out. About Julia Child, the TV chef. And it's got David Hyde Pierce as Julia Child's husband and Bebe Neuwirth as her best friend. I think I can't remember what the relationship is. I think someone who helped her get her first book published or something. They touch on it, and I can't remember. Anyway, they're both really good, and I've watched the first couple of episodes, and I really recommend it.
It's
a great show.
To give it a watch. I miss seeing David Hyde Pierce on the screen. He's not been in much.
He's good in this
for a while.
There's a scene when they buy a TV because he's kind of playing like this intellectual character. So he's not as much of a snob as someone like Niles, but as like a bit of a purist when it comes to like music and art and stuff. And he doesn't want to have a TV in the house because it was 61 that it's set. And he kind of says like, oh, I don't want to have a TV. I don't like them. And then they buy a TV when Julia Child starts doing TV appearances. And there's a scene when he's kind of like trying to find out where to place it in the living room, and he's pushing it around, and the way he's acting actually feels very Niles.
Right.
You get a little bit of that David Hyde Pierce physical comedy. Oh. And I realized how much I've missed it and how much I like seeing more of it. Just that little bit.
We want more David Hyde Pierce on our screens.
Yeah. So I recommend it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Before we leave, before we round off season 3, any highlights for the disc, for the series?
For the series overall, we're going to do favorite episode of the series.
Can if you want.
See, now I don't know what I would give it to. What was I had a 5 last week. So Moondance was one of the 5s.
Word to the Wise Guy?
Word to the Wise Guy. Maybe my favorite episode of the season.
Okay.
Trying to think if there is any particularly good ones in the first disc. There's not many in the second.
No.
Last Time I Saw Maris is good.
I don't think we've had a huge amount of 5s this season. No, I'm curious, but we've had pretty consistent, I think. We've not had a huge amount of 1s either.
Yeah.
So I reckon it could be placed, pretty carefully.
Pretty highly.
1 and 2. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to say favourite episode, I think either Where There's Smoke, There's Fire.
Yep.
From this disc, or possibly Look Before You Leap as well.
Look Before You Leap.
I do like Look Before You Leap.
Yeah.
The two favourites. We can't round off without saying Moondance as well.
Yeah, Moondance is fantastic.
Is up there. But yeah, well, there you go. Any other highlights?
So highlight from the disc.
Yeah.
Is in Where There's Smoke, There's Fire. And we were talking about it. So Martin has this comment when he's talking about when he used to smoke. Mm-hmm. The time he craved a cigarette most was when he had insomnia. And what he used to do was he would get up in the middle of the night, he would light a cigarette, and he would pour himself a water glass full of bourbon, which to me, that's a lot.
Yeah.
If you say glass of bourbon, you're thinking like a measure. He specifically says like probably a tall glass full of bourbon, and he sits and drinks it and smokes a cigarette, and nothing puts you to sleep like a cigarette. And it's this whole joke that obviously it's the alcohol that's putting him to sleep.
Yeah.
And then when we see him later on, when he has the cigarette in the bathroom, he's clearly very drunk.
Yeah.
And he kind of stumbles out of shot as Daphne's shouting, Frasier's wrestling Baby to the ground and trying to pull the cigarettes out of her hand, and Martin just completely slurring his words goes like, "That's it, no more house guests," and kind of stumbles back to bed. And I think that's great.
I think it's very good.
That's my highlight for the disc.
I do. Yeah. Honestly, I'd give it to the same episode. BB's Nosferatu rise from the couch bed. I love it. I can't. There's something so smooth and just pleasing to watch about the way she does it. I can't describe it. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's so funny, but like aesthetically as well. It just looks so good the way she does it. I need to find a GIF of it. There must be a GIF of it somewhere.
There will be. Yeah. If not, we can make one.
We'll make one. Yeah. And that's that.
There you go.
Season 3, rounded off. This is a little bit less climactic than I think the previous seasons. The previous seasons had a bit better sort of finales. both the podcast and the show.
Mm-hmm.
But there we go. It's fine. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
We will be back next week with another bonus episode.
Yeah.
What could the topic be? Who knows? We don't, because we've not planned it yet.
We haven't decided.
But it will be there. And then we will be back the following week with season 4.
Oh, you know what we were going to do actually at this time, because it came out around this time, is we were going to do Brother from Another Season.
Yeah, we were, weren't we? Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Well,
so this must have been around the time I was born. Kind of the space between, or like midway through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was midway through season 4.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be midway through season. Well, yeah, it will. Yeah, because the TV season's from autumn to spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So this will be about the time you were born. Oh, that's spooky.
Nice. Yep. Yeah. So we'll be back. So bonus episode, and then start of season 4. Getting into the second quarter of the show.
Exciting.
Very exciting.
And the good stuff as well. Be a lot more praise. A lot more praise for the show. I think far fewer ones.
Mm-hmm.
At least for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for joining me, especially in the evening or awkward recording times at the moment. We'll get back on schedule soon.
We will.
And thank you all for joining us as well. I hope you have a great day, good mental health, and thank you for listening. Nailed it. I nailed the intro and the outro. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh, go me.
It's only taken 6 weeks. No, how long has it been?
Oh,
it's been about 3 months.
3 months.
Boy.
This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.